We now know it's official. It will be Mami versus the man at WrestleMania 40. Rhea Ripley versus Becky Lynch after Becky Lynch was successful in winning the Women's Elimination Chamber match in Perth, Australia. A predictable outcome in that particular match, but it was all about seeing how they would get there for these two. And of course, Rhea Ripley retained the Raw Women's title / Women's World Heavyweight title, whichever one you want to phrase it as, in the main event against Nia Jax. And so now the match that we all expected, they hyped it up at the WrestleMania 40 kickoff event in Las Vegas several weeks ago, one that has kind of been penciled in by many fans for months now. It's here. It's going to be Rhea Ripley defending the title against Becky Lynch. And what an interesting setup this is, because I think the biggest question heading into this match, which is still, a good 5 weeks or whatever away, who should win this match? Because you've got two very interesting stories that are intertwining here with Rhea Ripley and Becky Lynch. And if you look at kind of the history between these two, I think most people realize this, but it is kind of rare, I think, in this day and age in WWE to have two competitors who have not really been in the ring together on WWE television. Now, maybe house shows and all that stuff, but have not really interacted with each other in a lot of matches. And these two have only interacted with each other in traditional matches, that is. I'm going to be honest with you. I can't recall if there have been Royal Rumble interactions, all this other stuff. I assume there has been, but if we put the Royal Rumble to the side, in traditional matches, these two have only been involved together, according to Cage Match here, in 5 matches together. They've only had one singles match, and that came all the way back on November the 20th in 2019. That was on NXT. It ended with a DQ finish, so you didn't even have a winner in that match. But again, you think about like all the different combinations we've seen and the types of how hard it is sometimes to have the types of matches that you feel like you haven't seen before. This is a match we really have not seen before in terms of these two iterations of where Becky Lynch is and where Rhea Ripley is. Because remember, they've both come a long way since that match in 2019, to where their story now stands only weeks away from the showdown in Philadelphia. So I think this is one that is pretty fascinating going into this, because we know you kind of look at the fan reaction to Rhea Ripley. Yes, she's part of this heel group, but fans want to cheer Mami, right? And we know they definitely cheered her in Australia. That was for, maybe even an added effect because she was in Australia versus what you're going to get maybe in Philadelphia. But there's going to be a lot of people who are behind Rhea Ripley in that particular match. And, everyone's kind of talked about, when is that eventual turn for Rhea Ripley? When does she become, kind of the full-on babyface and all this again? I don't know that you have to play that route, because I think she's good enough in her role right now to where, she's not like, she just faced like the biggest heel on the women's side, right? And Nia Jax. So you can play it off when you need to, but you can also have her in these kind of matches where Rhea Ripley's kind of that tweener, where she's just her. She's just the character that she is, and you don't really have to pick or choose. Well, okay, she's got to go around shaking hands and kissing babies and all this other stuff like your old school, baby faces and stuff back in the day. She doesn't have to do any of that. She can just be the ass-kicking Rhea Ripley that we've seen her be for the last however long now. Keep in mind, I'm pretty sure, looking at the numbers here, this is at least what I looked up in trying to research it, I don't think Rhea Ripley's been pinned, and I think they pointed this out on commentary at Elimination Chamber. I don't think she's been pinned in like almost 2 years. I think it was Liv Morgan, I want to say. It was May 2022. Now, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but again, sometimes these matches just run together. But going back and looking through it, I think that's the last time I saw that Rhea Ripley had been pinned. And so that's a long time. And now you've got the setup here to where she's facing Becky Lynch, and whether it's pinfall, submission, whatever, because we know Becky has a bit of an arsenal of submission moves there, and so that's always a possibility, I suppose. But this is one where you feel like it's okay. Rhea's been the champion for quite a while now. She hasn't had that big singles loss in a long time. Is this the point where you put Becky Lynch in a position where, the man has come back around, if you will, and she is there with her sights set on recapturing this championship, and she is the one to take down Rhea Ripley? Or is there something to the effect of, do we see Rhea Ripley she's already been a dominant champion. Is she the next in line to kind of have that Roman Reigns-esque, championship reign where, all right, just maybe when you think that she's facing her toughest competition yet, which I think they had built Nia Jax up to feel like that, because remember, Nia had beaten Becky in a singles match to start the year on the day one Raw or whatever it was. Maybe just when you think that Becky Lynch is going to be the one to come in here, she's, feeling all the momentum, all the confidence. We've seen these two interact at the WrestleMania 40 kickoff event in Las Vegas. And maybe it's like, all right, Becky's the one that's going to dethrone Rhea Ripley, this dominant champion, because it's Becky, right? It's the man. It's the person who made her ascent years ago and became bigger than basically anything in the company. And now she comes back in with a great opportunity here. Or again, do you just have Rhea get another huge win and maybe there's an even bigger match down the road for Rhea Ripley at some point in the future? There are still those big singles matches that feel like they're out there for Rhea. This is certainly one of them. But is Becky the person to take the title off of her? I think it's an interesting question to ask because, there are other, as we said, possibilities. There are other big singles matches that probably WWE would love to do, and you can still do these matches even without the championship. But you think in the future, right? There's Rhea Ripley versus Bianca Belair. There's Rhea Ripley versus Jade Cargill, if they can work to that at some point in the future. So is this the year that Rhea Ripley, is she going to lose the championship? We all know she triumphed a year ago, able to start kind of this reign. And now is it one, like I said, is this going to be one where, hey, it's just the year-to-year reign essentially? Or does this become something bigger? Does Rhea Ripley become the next Roman Reigns-esque champion where she is holding this thing for a couple years or more or something like that? I mean, it's still to this point, right? You think about how much that Rhea Ripley has been used on television, whether it's wrestling, whether it's just, microphone for the Judgment Day, all this other stuff. She is a huge, huge star now. And you think about, again, kind of the road to get here. Sometimes you get some of these matches and you're like, well, okay, the champion's run has run its course. Now let's switch it to somebody else, right? Let somebody else kind of take the reign and let's see what happens. It doesn't feel that way with Rhea Ripley. It doesn't feel like, we're even to the point yet where it's like, all right, it's time for Rhea to lose, right? Because sometimes, as you know, in the past, there have been some of those reigns, whether it's mid-card belts, world championship reigns, where it's like, all right, now's the time for this person to lose. I mean, look, it's a different situation, but last year, people thought that was going to be the case with Roman Reigns against Cody Rhodes. Maybe it'll be the case this year. But it does not feel that way in any way, shape, or form where it's like, okay, they got to get the belt off of Rhea. It doesn't. I mean, at some point, it almost feels like the opposite, maybe, to where it's like she is clearly being used to the point to where she is all over the screen, and for good reason, because she has kind of become this great, great character that, again, fans want to get behind. They want to root for. And I think it's an interesting dilemma that WWE finds itself in. It's a good place to be in, right? Because you're choosing between Becky Lynch, who has main evented, a WrestleMania, rose to a level of stardom that we have not seen in maybe a long, long time, if ever, for a WWE women's talent in the ring. And now you've got Rhea Ripley trying to sort of be that same type of person, although, a different path to get there. But instead, kind of proving it's not just the challenger becomes it's the champion trying to continue to hold on to this reign, and one that I just don't think has run out of steam yet. So is it going to be predictable? What do you think? Do you think that this is one where Becky Lynch is going to dethrone Rhea Ripley as the women's world heavyweight champion, or however they're phrasing it now? Or do you think this run continues to Rhea Ripley, perhaps for a future rematch against Becky Lynch in a bigger, another big setting somewhere, maybe a SummerSlam, maybe next year's WrestleMania? Or is there someone else that eventually gets that opportunity? Like I said, could you go with someone like Bianca Belair? Go with that, what feels like a dream match even at this point, doing a Rhea Ripley versus Jade Cargill, all those kind of things. There's a lot of possibilities still out there for Rhea Ripley, I think, as the champion. But, does it make Becky's story more interesting if she's able to win the championship? And then maybe we see, from a character standpoint, what happens to Rhea Ripley after she loses the title. What happens? Does she step away from Judgment Day? Is there kind of that reflection we see from champions when they lose their title? Is there a bit of a switch somewhere? These are all very, I think, fascinating questions, and that's what makes this match, I think, one of the most interesting ones heading into WrestleMania 40 season. There will be a lot of big matches on the card, as we know, and I will wait to make my official prediction when we make our WrestleMania 40 predictions closer to the event, because I'm curious to see how they build this story up over the next several weeks. But for now, I want to know what you think. As we sit here At this point, after Elimination Chamber, what do you think the momentum's heading towards? Is it heading towards Becky dethroning Rhea Ripley, being the new champion? Or do you think Rhea retains and continues this dominant run, maybe not even just through WrestleMania season, maybe through the following WrestleMania? There's a lot of possibilities out there. Would love to know what you think in the comments below. Let me know what you think about this match, Becky Lynch versus Rhea Ripley, and anything else heading into WrestleMania 40. Always appreciate the great feedback. New channel here. Just enjoy talking wrestling. So hit that subscribe button, hit the like button if you don't mind. That helps us out here at Wrestling Reaction. And again, let me know what you think. Your predictions, early predictions for Becky Lynch versus Rhea.